Okay, we're on Sheviit, Perek Vav, Mishnah Aleph. Perek Vav, Mishnah Aleph of Sheviit. So before we start, the first thing we have to know is that according to the Torah, we read about the following. We said the following. Deber b'nei Yisrael v'amarta aleim. This is a law of Sheviit we've seen a number of times. Ki tavo el haaretz asher ani noten lechem shavta haaretz shavat l'Hashem. We're going to focus today on these psukim, on the words Ki tavo el haaretz. When you come to the land. Shemitah is what's called a mitzvah hatluya ba'aretz. It's a mitzvah that's dependent upon the land of Israel. Let's go back to the bottom. We're going to need that soon. Okay? So obviously the question is, well, what's Eretz Yisrael? This is a huge question. Because in order to know where Shemitah applies, we have to know what is Eretz Yisrael. For example, if I grow produce in Eilat, does that have Kedushat Sheviit? What if I grew produce in Aza, in Gush Katif? Did that have Kedushat Sheviit? As we'll soon see, even what we consider Israel today is not always necessarily Israel from the time of Chazal. We will just soon see this. I want to preface this by saying this Mishnah is very complicated. There's a huge amount of debate about the exact meaning of the places. I'm not equipped to give a total. I read a bit about it. I tried to understand it to the best of my ability. But understand, we're going to learn it in a very surface way. We don't have the ability to understand exactly what each place is. If you want to go into more depth, there's so much more to look at. I'll share with you some maps, but more than that, I can't, there's a limit to what we can do in a Mishnah Yomi, but that's okay. It says the Mishnah. Okay, remember we said mitzvot to liot ba'aretz. So in order to understand, there were different, what makes something Kedushat Eretz Yisrael? So there's a machloket. The Rambam says the following. The Rambam says that we know there were 2 times of kibush Eretz Yisrael. Let's look at my chart for a second. Okay? There's what's called Hichziku Olei Mitzrayim. When they came in from Eretz Yisrael, Olei Mitzrayim came into the land of Israel. Now we know that the original borders, if you look at the end of Parshat Matot, Maseh, the end of Parshat Maseh, the borders that God gives to the land of Israel are huge. They're from the Euphrates River all the way down to the Nile River. Just tremendously large border. Maybe that will come to be one day. That's not up to us. But we know when the Bnei Israel came in from Mitzrayim, they didn't inhabit all of that land. They inhabited only a small portion of that land. And that's called Shichziku Olei Mitzrayim. Olei Mitzrayim came in. They didn't conquer all of it. They were machzik. They wasn't kibush. They conquered it. But military conquest, as we all know factually, military conquest does not equal control. The fact that you have conquered something doesn't mean control. Control is when you inhabit a place, when you settle a place. As anyone in modern day Israel understands, settling is very different. The fact that an army has a camp there does not mean you control it. You could lose it very easily. Usually, almost always when you settle it, that means that you have much more control over it. So, Hichziku Olei Mitzrayim, when only the Rambam says, Halacha says, that's what's called Kitcha L'Sha'ata. It was holy as Eretz Yisrael then. Velo Kitcha L'Atid Lavo. It did not have a permanent in of Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, when the Bnei Israel were niglu, when they were exiled by Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babel, Eretz Yisrael to some degree lost its status of Kedusha. Not Yerushalayim, not Har HaBayit, but the land of Israel. But the halacha stands and says that when Hichziku Olei Bavel, when the Olei Bavel came, that is what we consider Kitcha L'Sha'ata. When the Bnei Israel came into Bavel, I have a sheet for you that I found on the internet, very great from the Dot website. Very great, he says, okay, Kedusha Rishonah, Kedusha Shniyah. Okay, and the second time Kedusha Eretz Yisrael was the Olei Bavel, 70 years after Galut Bavel, Koresh, the king of Persia, allowed them to enter into Eretz Yisrael. Okay, and it was Kishuat Ta'aretz Kedusha Shniyah. And in that case, in Kedusha Shniyah, the halacha is Kitcha L'Sha'ata v'Kitcha L'Atid Lavo. That Kedusha, the halacha stayed. So therefore, we have an area where it was Olei Mitzrayim, where the Kedusha was temporary, and then we have Kedusha of Olei Bavel, where the Kedusha was more permanent. And then we have areas that are Chutz La'aretz, that are just not in the land of Israel. Which of those lands applies for Sheviit? As you can see, this is a matter of huge debate, and it's very confusing, but we'll do it as clearly as possible. Says the Mishnah, Shalosh Artzot L'Shvi'it. There are 3 lands for Shevi'it. There is Olei Mitzrayim, there's Olei Bavel, and then we're going to see there's Chutz La'aretz. Okay? Chutz La'aretz is the only part of this chart, I'm just going to put it in red, that I wrote to myself. This chart is the Mishnah, but I just put it in chart form to make it easier to understand. I hope that will help you. Says the Mishnah. Remember we said Olei Bavel, when they came back, they were machzik, they had a chazaka. Okay? Therefore, it's Kedusha L'Sha'ata v'Kedusha L'Atid Lavo. And what is that? me Eretz Yisrael ve'ad Kaziv. This is easy. From Eretz Yisrael until Kaziv, what is that area? Let's look at our chart here. Kaziv is a place that was above Akko, and there's a Nachal Kaziv that you can actually hike today. From Kaziv, that was the northwestern part of Eretz Yisrael in Olei Bavel. Okay? And from then below, and you can decide what the area was, and if you notice, Azah is not in that area, just pointing it out. Okay, from Kaziv, from Eretz Yisrael up north to Kaziv, lo ne'echal velo ne'evad. You cannot eat the fruits, velo ne'evad, and you cannot do work. What does ne'echal mean? I have another chart for you. It's a three-way machloket. According to the Bartanura, lo ne'echal means, the first parish he gives, which he doesn't like, is if someone did work violated by Isur, okay, can you eat the peirot? So the Mishnah says, no, in this place, lo ne'echal, lo ne'evad. The second explanation of the Bartanura that he does like is, if a person prohibitively collected fruit after Sheviit and didn't do bi'ur, remember we talked about bi'ur in the Sheviit, you have to do bi'ur, you have to make it hefker. If a person didn't make it hefker, can you eat the fruit? So that's the second one. Rambam says it's only talking about Isur Svichim, produce that growed by itself. Is there an Isur Svichim in this area? In any case, in this land of Ichziku Olei Bavel, from Eretz Yisrael to Kaziv, let's go back to our chart, from Kaziv all the way down, in that area, so in that case, the Mishnah says, Lo necha v'lo nevad. That's Eretz Yisrael, Kitcha l'shata, kitcha la'atid lavo. You can't eat, you can't work there. Second, V'chol she'chziku olei mitzrayim. Remember we said olei mitzrayim, kitcha l'shata, v'lo kitcha la'atid lavo, mikaziv v'ad anahar, v'ad amana. This is where we have great debate. From Kaziv we know, v'ad anahar, which river is it? So in the picture that I showed you, in this picture, he assumes the river is Nahar, the Litiani River. Litani River. Okay? Ad Amana. Amana is another word for Hor Hahar. Hor Hahar. Okay? So until Kaziv, from Kaziv, to the Nahar, to Amana. So he says it's Kaziv, to the Nahar, to Amana, to Hor Hahar. Okay, and by the way, we can see here, there was a huge area of Olei Bavel that was Kitcha l'sha'ata, v'kitcha la'atid lavo. Okay, so in that case, that is area, of Olei Mitzrayim, that included all this area. Remember, the Olei Mitzrayim, they conquered from the eastern bank of the Jordan River as well, and then they settled there, Ruvain, Gad, and Chasi Sheviit, Menashe. So in those areas, that is not Kedusha Ta'aretz, it's old Kedusha. It's Kedusha that was and is no longer. So therefore the rules are more lenient. Ne'echal, if a person produced there, or if a person didn't do beer, you could eat the fruit, based on your explanation. Aval lo ne'evad, but it's not ne'evad. I just want to point out, okay, if you look at Google Earth, okay, here is Akko. Where are we? Let's go back to our chart here. Okay, here is Akko, so let's go to Google Earth. Here is Akko. The Litani River, you probably never noticed it. I never noticed it until now. Let's see if I can find it. Litani River. Here we are. Litani River is a very tiny river in the middle of Lebanon. So we can see, let's just make it smaller. Litani River is here, above Tsur, above Tyre. Okay, so Olei Mitzrayim, we're all the way up here. I saw another explanation that it disagreed and said that it wasn't Litani River. When it said the Nahar, it doesn't mean the Litani River. It was referring to the Euphrates River. If you want to know where the Euphrates River is here near Ramadi. Okay, if you look at Ramadi, from Ramadi to Fallujah, all the way down, the Euphrates River goes all the way down from Ramadi, into Fallujah, and then it merges below Baghdad. It merges with the Tyre. Does it merge? No. So it goes through all the way down here on the border of Iraq and, what is that? Iraq? No, it's in Iraq. Okay? Some say that all of this was considered Olei Mitzrayim, because in the Gvulot that God gave in Mas'eh, it does include the Nahar, the Euphrates River. That's you can, again, it gets much more involved, much more complicated. Whatever you want, you can do more research if you want. But from Kaziv, V'ad Nahar, V'ad Amana, all that area, Ne'echal, Avalo Ne'evad. Now obviously, the implication being that this is not official Eretz Yisrael. Lo Ne'evad, so it's more of a din d'Rabbanan. So that would have great implications for Hilchot Shemitah today. Mina Nahar Ume Amana V'lifnim, from the river and Amana and Lifnim. So Lifnim obviously is a great question. Does it mean eastward? It would make sense to mean eastward or northward. Ne'echal v'ne'evad. All of that is considered ne'echal v'ne'evad. So I guess what he thinks it means is above. All that and above north, or east from there, is ne'echal v'ne'evad. Why? Let's go back to our chart. Because that's chutz la'aretz. So again, just to understand in our chart, the area of Yichziku Ovule Bavel, from Eretz Yisrael into Kiziv, that's Eretz Yisrael D'Oraita Lo Nechal Lo Ne'avad. You can't work there, you can't eat from the fruit. Ole Mitzrayim is Dirabanan, is a Gzeirah. And from Kiziv and Arvad Amanam, that's Ne'echal V'Lo Ne'avad. We can't work it, but we're a little more lenient about eating the fruit. And in Chutz La'aretz, it's Ne'echal V'Ne'avad. As I said, there's great halachic implications to this issue. What is modern day Eretz Yisrael vis-a-vis Hilchot Shemitah? That's why you have scholars. I think we've exhausted this topic for the purpose of Mishnah Yomit. Probably it's even too much. If you have any comments or questions, comments are always welcome, especially about complicated issues like this. Email me at arspolter@gmail.com, and I'll dedicate the learning to the memory of my father, Harav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Have a great day.